Better late than never, right? Better late than never. What's good, man? What's good? How's everybody doing today? We are talking about the greatest quarterback to ever step foot in a Raiders jersey, Derek Carr, today. And this may be surprising to people, but my top 10 reasons why I say no to Derek Carr. So, shout out to everybody in the building. My guy Lawrence, Grimm, Raider Paul. What's good? What's good? Appreciate all of y'all. The big debate, right? This could be fun. It could get very, very interesting. People have a lot of mixed feelings about Derek Carr with the Las Vegas Raiders. They also have a lot of hatred towards Derek Carr. So some people want him back, after 3 years of not having a quarterback and letting one that was some say was a top 15 just walk out of the building. Do you bring him back to the Las Vegas Raiders? We'll get into all of that. We're also going to look at, D line because we need D line. I was supposed to be on the computer, but I didn't read the instructions to the new microphone and the setup, and it takes 6 hours to charge, so I got a long time. Yeah, didn't get to do it last night. So we'll be on the computer sometime tonight. Maybe pull up later on and do a mock draft. If y'all want to, let me know. If not, it's all good. So the Derek Carr conversation, man. Should he come back and be a mentor to the great Mendoza, right? Or should it be Kirk Cousins? What's the difference? Should it be should it be 97-year-old Joe Flacco? I mean, right? He's I don't know what age Joe Flacco is, but it's up there, right? It's up there. Should it be Joe Flacco? Should the Raiders just go with the cerebral assassin, Aiden O'Connell, right? Should they just go that direction? Some of us want him. Some people already in the chat. We already know how you feel about Aiden O'Connell. But which way will the Raiders go? And is it the right thing to do to bring back Derek Carr? We're gonna break that down. So I have a list, and we're just gonna get into it right now. Why not start off heavy off the rip, right? All right, let's figure this out. So So what I did is I went. Oh shit, that was bright. What I did is I went through the internet. I put up a little poll. I'm not gonna tell you where. To see, you know, Raider fans, mostly non-Raider fans, what their opinion would be to bring back a Derek Carr. And here are some of the answers I got, and then I'm gonna give you my, you know, top reasons why not to, and then maybe tomorrow I'll give you my 500 reasons why we should. I'm just kidding, but we'll see how that goes. So, someone said reports as of March 2026 indicate there is zero interest for teams. There zero interest for teams in Derek Carr's comeback. In other, what if another quarterback needy team won't bring him in? The Raiders might be at risk of overpaying. For overpaying what the rest of the league considers to be washed. Now that's a harsh words. I don't know, because I know the Jets have reached out to him. I know there are several teams that reached out to Derek Carr. We know on his podcast he said he would only play for a contender, right? Which are the Raiders a contender? We'll get into that too. It's in the thumbnail, right? But what are your thoughts on that? Do you think there's zero market for a player like Derek Carr if he decides to come back, if he decides not to retire? Malcolm, was good. Appreciate you. Arnie Garza in the building. Was good. Was good. I hope the Raiders don't sign Kirk Cousins. So would you rather Kirk Cousins, Joe Flacco, or Derek Carr? Let me know in the chat. Let me know. All right, the next one. I guess this is number 9. Age and decline mobility. Now this is harsh. This is harsh right here. These are not mine. Mine will come. These are just what I gathered up from around the net. At 34, Carr is entering the twilight of his career. Critics have noted he is too slow and scared to run. which clashes with the modern NFL demands for a mobile dual threat playmaker. Now, I don't know how mobile or dual threat Sam Darnold was. Is that my hair? Good Lord. I don't know how mobile Sam Darnold was or how much of a dual threat he was in the Seattle offense. But how do y'all feel about that? How do y'all feel about that? Are any of these words true? Do you feel like Derek Carr is too slow to play quarterback in the NFL at 34 years old? Let me know in the comments. Let me know in the comments. Next, we have the clean break philosophy is what I'm going to call this. The Raiders unceremoniously benched and released Carr in 2023, returning a former ex can prevent an organization from truly moving forward and establishing a new culture under the current leadership. Now, this I agree with 100%. Now, this I can't. What can you say to that, right? What can you say to that? The Raiders, yeah. So the Raiders returning an ex can prevent the organization from truly moving forward and establishing a new culture under the current leadership. Now, I think that's 100% correct, and that should be the number one reason why, right? That would be a number one reason for me. Raider Ryan, what's good? Appreciate you. So let me know how you all feel about that. Let me know how y'all feel about that. Do you think bringing back, Derek Carr prevents this team from going forward with Mendoza? Let me know. Let me know. Stagnant offense identity, right? So, somebody said, while Carr knows head coach Clint Kubiak's system, his check down tendencies and struggles in the red zone were frequent during his 9 years in the silver and black. I don't know if I agree with that. I don't know. I don't know. Hit me up. Hit me up on Instagram. The franchise. Boom. But anyways, he's trying to say in a Clint Kubiak system that Derek Carr's tendencies to check down. Now, if you ever played quarterback and your offensive line isn't great and you have 300-pound dudes beating down your chest when you're trying to throw the ball, your tendency is going to be to roll out of the pocket, right? Try to make plays, try to get guys open. I mean, that's what my tendency would be, right? That's the first thing I'm thinking. I got to get away from this and make a play. So, I don't know about the check down thing. I know the Raiders didn't have the greatest offense. Carr's never really had the greatest receivers. I mean, a couple here and there, right? Michael Crabtree, Amari Cooper in his prime. I'd be okay with Flacco on the cheap to help mentor Mendoza. Let me ask you this, though. The time that Flacco was with the Cleveland Browns, how much did he help? How much did he help? Shedeur Sanders and Dylan Gabriel, right? They looked horrible coming out there. And reports were he didn't want nothing to do with those kids. So, I don't know. This is just reports. But there was lots of reports saying Joe Flacco didn't want to mentor. He didn't want to be that guy. He wanted to be the starting quarterback. Now, there was videos of them, Shedeur trying to talk to him. And the dude just like he didn't want nothing to do with this. So, is he that guy to mentor? I don't know. I'd have to question that a little bit. All right, so the next one is. There's a dog barking. There's nobody here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, so check down tendencies in the red zone. I could see that. Carr in the red zone struggled a lot throughout his career. It was a struggle. So, regression. Sorry, I had to get a drink. Regression. In his final Raiders season, 2022, Carr posted a career low quarterback rating of 56.2. I don't think that is true. I'm going to have to look that up. Um, his subsequent stint in New Orleans was marked by poor performance that limited his effectiveness before his retirement. I don't know where people get these comments and ideas, but if these are top 10 reasons why we shouldn't bring back Derek Carr, stay tuned for mine. Someone said, despite his franchise records, Carr has only reached the postseason twice in his 11-year career, and he has never won a playoff games. Fans and analysts often point to his 63-79 record with the Las Vegas Raiders. Is evident he is not a proven winner. Okay, I gotta disagree with that 100,000%. For one, he's never had a defense that wasn't ranked inside the top 20, but one time in his Raiders career, Oakland Raider career, Vegas Raider career. So that's caps. In his 63-79 record, out of that 63-79 record, he has 34 comeback wins himself, with the offensive line and receivers, but him at the helm. 34 fourth quarter comeback victories out of 63 wins. That tells me Derek Carr is a winner, Derek Carr is a fighter, and Derek Carr, despite what people want to say, was a top 15 quarterback when he was released from the Raiders and probably when he got hurt. Could he still be that? I don't know. The injuries, I don't know. But that is caps, bro. He never won a playoff game because the defense, didn't really help him out too much. Yes, he threw an interception against the Bengals in a playoff game. Didn't help us out too much. But if that's the only reason, the only knock you have on Derek Carr, that's crazy. Before retiring, Carr signed a 4-year, $150 million contract. Even if restructured, he is unlikely to play for the vet minimum. And the Raiders would prefer cheaper veterans like Joe Flacco or the above-mentioned Kirk Cousins, which I think is a horrible mistake. There was reports the same way. Cousins was shell-shocked that they went and got Penix. He wasn't happy, and he wasn't into mentoring the kid. Right? He took his job. So, I don't know. I don't know how that works. But, as far as the money goes, I believe that's kind of correct, right? If Carr does pay for the league minimum, if he's coming in to be a starter, there's no way he's going for less than 12 mil, right? Do the Raiders have 12 mil? But if you're going to spend 12 mil on a Kirk Cousins or a Joe Flacco, wouldn't it make sense to spend it on a guy who ran out of Raider Nation a horrible, horrible way, benched with 2 games left, told to stay at home? I mean, if you're going to spend money, it just makes sense, right? Or does it? Also, the biggest, or not the biggest, but one of the biggest, is Carr technically remains under contract. He also goes on to say, with the New Orleans Saints, the retired reserve list, to bring him back, the Raiders obviously would have to negotiate a trade, giving up assets for a player who previously left for nothing. Now that is a huge reason why not to bring back Derek Carr. I'm sorry, I love Derek Carr. He's one of my favorite players of all time in the Raiders. But that's a huge reason right there. That's a huge reason, a huge, huge reason. Now, you could say, as an argument, because you know me, I'm going to debate everything, I'm going to argue everything. But as an argument, you can honestly say, all right, I'm going to stop reading the chat because I get distracted. I'll get to the chat in a minute. Go ahead, keep messaging away. I'll get to them, I will. It's getting colder out here, though. Damn. Can you all see me shivering? I'm saying that sun dropped and so did the temperature. Holy shnikes. So anyways, again, Carr technically remains under contract. with the New Orleans Saints. So, on the retired reserve list, bringing him back to the Raiders would likely have to renegotiate a trade, giving up assets for a player that you previously released for nothing. The key point, previously released for nothing, bro. Absolutely nothing. They just let him walk. They could have got trade capital. They could have got picks. They could have got money. They could have got. You could have got a lot of shit. You could have got players. You could have got a lot, I believe, for Derek Carr. But I will say this about that. The New Orleans Saints have their quarterback in Tyler Shuck. They have their backup in Spencer Rattler, who a lot of people are talking about, teams should trade for a Spencer Rattler because he's a damn good quarterback. On the other hand, if Carr was to say, I'm coming back out of retirement, guess what? The New Orleans Saints have to pay that money, right? Listen to me closely now. The New Orleans Saints have to pay his contract if he decides to come back. So wouldn't the New Orleans Saints say, yo, give us a seventh next year, just give us something. Do like they did for Justin Fields coming out of the Bears, right? A 6th round pick the following year. I think that this has nothing to do with that at all. Now, it does make sense to not give up assets or draft capital for a guy you released and got nothing for. But that was a different regime that made a stupid decision. Whether you like Derek Carr or not, they made a dumbass move. It was dumb. It was totally stupid. So I could see a scenario where if, and I'll give you my reasons here in a minute. Got one more left, two more. Yeah, one more left. Second one, Carr retired 2025 due to a torn labrum and rotator cuff damage in his right shoulder. Guess which arm that is? That's his throwing arm. Now, we've heard the reports on his channel from his brother, from himself, that Derek Carr is back. He's throwing. He's good. The arm is good. But that arm is a way different story when you're halfway ready to throw and you get hit. It's a way different story when you're already in a throwing motion and you get hit from behind or from the side. It's a way different story than standing up in the backyard and yelling, blue 52, silver, silver, silver. Right? A way different story. So, there is questions about that. Yes, the arm is healed. Yes, he's lifting weights. Yes, he's throwing the ball down the field. But what about the lack of wanting to run? Jason Ruiz was good. Pick 6 was good. I'll get to all your comments in a minute. So, yeah, there is that part. The torn labrum. Would he make it through a season? If you trade a 5th round or a 6th round or a 7th round or whatever New Orleans would ask, which I don't think would be a lot. Because like I said, if he does say, I want to come out of retirement, they're going to have to trade him because they don't have the money to pay him. And it messes up their whole draft. It messes up their whole offseason. It messes up everything for the New Orleans Saints if he does decide to come out of retirement. Now, he's not going to come out of retirement unless he has a team to go to. He has obviously stated himself that he wants to play for a contender. Are the Raiders a contender? Stay tuned. So, number one, this is huge. Prioritizing franchise, Mendoza error. The Raiders are widely expected to draft Indiana quarterback Fernando Mendoza. If they don't, it's going to be crazy. And that's the reason I bought this shirt, that I made this shirt, right? Because when I seem to rock some shit or want somebody to go the other way. So I'm just gotta have a twist in there, right? Stay tuned. The Raiders are widely expected to draft Indiana quarterback Fernando Mendoza. It'd probably help if I put on my glasses. I can read this shit better. Let me try this. Oh my God, I can see. Wow. With the first pick in the draft. Bringing back a franchise icon. Yes. Bringing back Raiders. Bringing back a franchise icon like Carr could create unnecessary pressure on a quarterback controversy that hinders the rookie's development. Now, I'm going to disagree with that as well, right? I'm going to disagree with that as well. And I'm going to tell you my reasons why I believe you don't bring back Derek Carr. And God, it hurts to say that. Man, it hurts to say that so bad. Like, I never thought in my lifetime I would tell y'all reasons why I don't want Derek Carr. But I have a couple. And the major number one is him and Tom Brady. If you haven't watched the video of Tom Brady saying, that fucking guy, that guy, we all know the story between John Gruden, right? Wanting to get his guy. We all know the story. He wanted to keep Derek Carr. The owner, Mark Davis, of course, wanted to go a different way, bring in Tom Brady. Well, the Patriots went on, or the Tampa Bay Bucks went on to win a Super Bowl. And the Raiders haven't made it to the playoffs. And then they get rid of Derek Carr for absolutely nothing, like we discussed a minute ago. So, I don't think it would work. I don't think it would work. The only way I think Derek Carr would work is if you brought him back as a quarterback coach to mentor that way, which I don't think New Orleans would be, upset with. I don't think it would be a problem. If you bring him back as a quarterback coach and not a player, I think that's fine. Now, as I said, I love Derek Carr. And if you were to tell me that the Raiders found a reason to trade back that first number one pick because they just got offered too much money and they couldn't do it, Carr makes all the sense in the world. All the sense in the world. 2-year, 3-year contract. Let him play for a year. Draft your quarterback next year. Let him sit behind Carr for another year. I think Carr has 2 more years in him. I think he absolutely has 2 more years in him. Now, have you seen in the title? The Raiders, rebuild or contenders? The Raiders have made a lot of moves that have helped this defense, that have helped this offense. Their offensive line is stronger with just one guy they brought in, but they brought in another one to compete for a guard spot. They now have 9 guards on the roster. Somebody's going to get traded. Somebody's going to get cut. Somebody's going to get released. You can't keep 9 guards on a 53-man roster and a 16-man practice squad. Now, you can do it through camp and let there be a battle and a competition, but the Raiders are stocking up at this position. We'll do a mock draft later tonight if everything goes right, who I think the second overall pick is, because we already know who number 1 is. But if the Raiders were somehow convinced, because of Clint Kubiak and his love for Derek Carr, their relationship, if Kubiak sees, because we've never heard Clint Kubiak say, Mendoza's my guy. The only thing I heard Clint Kubiak say about Mendoza was he watched one game, the national championship, and he can't wait to get into tape, but he also can't wait to get into tape of all the other players available in the first round. So as Raider fans, we know we need a quarterback. We've already got shirts, right? We know what needs to happen for this team to turn around. But does it have to be this year? Can the plans change with Kubiak in the building? How much power does he have? Can he convince Spytek to keep Tom Brady out of the way and bring back Derek Carr for maybe a year or two? And you get your quarterback next year. I don't know. But they could definitely go either way. As far as I'm concerned, we'll get into some of these comments. What's your thought on Jayden Waddle trade? I think it helps out the Denver Broncos. They have speed. They have a receiver that's crafty, that's going to make plays. This sun is killing my face. Hold up. Try this. That's not helping either. It's hitting the back of my glasses and blinding the shit out of me. Derek Carr, Joe Flacid. So the Waddle trade, good Lord, what's going on around here? I think it helps the Broncos. You got a third-year quarterback in Bo Nix. It's the end of the world as we know it. And I feel fine. But But yeah, I think they gave up possibly just a little too much. A little too much. But when you're a team that was one game away from a Super Bowl, you have pretty much everything you need, just a couple pieces here and there. I think that's a huge piece. I think that's a huge piece that gives them, a big advantage on offense, which they haven't had in a long, long time. Adding a Waddle. I mean, if Waddle can have the numbers he had with Tua, I think he could have those numbers with the Bo Nix. Question: what are your impressions of Buford versus the rest of the guards? Starter, depth piece, or other? Um, I guess if you're going to go experience wise, he has an advantage over, I guess, over JPJ and over Caleb Rogers. But it's a competition, and I hope to God this year. I feel like with Kubiak and the coaches we have, that it's going to be a battle. Nobody's going to be like, okay, we paid this guy this much money, he's the starter. I don't think that's the case. So competition, right? Iron sharpens iron, makes everybody better. And we got to have backups. You got to have backups. I don't know if they go with 9 or 10 offensive linemen this year. Maybe they only go with 9, try to add guys to the back end. But I like Buford. I think he's solid right now. I don't think he's a guaranteed starter. I think JPJ has something to say with that. I think Jordan Meredith has something to say about that. Putting Jordan Meredith back at guard, let's not act like he's not going to be battling for this spot all camp long, right? All preseason. He's not giving it up. We forget Jordan Meredith was an 80 grade blocking, pass blocking, and run blocking just 2 years ago with the Raiders offensive line that wasn't that good, with Antonio Pierce as the head coach, right? With 2 different offensive coordinators. So look, Jordan Meredith has been around, and I've been a fan of Jordan Meredith since, he stuck around, was released, brought back, was released, brought back, brought onto the team, was let go so they can put him back on the practice squad. He's had a long go with the Raiders, and there's a reason why they tendered him, to keep him on the roster. He's going to compete. So we have competition at the guard spot. The only problem right now is we need somebody to push DJ Glaze, right tackle. Can they move Can they move Charles Grant over to the right side? Let him compete. Dalton Wagner, my Arkansas boy, Dalton Wagner, is now on the 53-man roster as of now, unless he gets beat out, right? So that's our backup tackle. He's been on the practice squad for what, 3 years now? 3 years for Dalton Wagner? If anybody went to any of the practices, you could see he moves a little better. He's, got a little lighter, but he's still that physical mauler when it comes to the run game that I remember in the Arkansas Razorbacks. And if Dalton Wagner, can get better and compete, get better in his footwork, I think there'll be a little battle over there between Wagner and DJ Glaze, but I really want to draft Max Ihenokor. That's who I want. I think this man is the man, is the man, is the man. I'd be okay with Flacco on the cheap as a mentor. I got to that question. Arkansas Razorback players in the draft are worth drafting for our Raiders. I don't think we'll draft Mike Washington as high as he's going to go. We talked about him on this channel all season long. I did Razorback games during college, during college football season. I've told y'all, watch out for Mike Washington. I had him second round on my 100 board. I don't know if he doesn't move up into the first. So I think he's off the list. I would love Taylor Green for the Raiders. It would give us, kind of what Justin Fields brings to Kansas City, right? A guy that you can bring in on the goal line, guy that you can bring in short yardage, a guy you could just bring in as a gadget guy like a Taysom Hill. I think Taylor Green would fit great in a Kubiak system because, the dude's creative. So Taylor Green would be all right. I would say the right guard, however you say that. But we have, I just talked about 9 guards on this team. I just don't feel like, we need another guard right now. So, um, Julian Neal is my guy, bro. Julian Neal, I think, would definitely help this team. He would be a strap down corner. He doesn't have to play right away because we have Darian Porter, but I think he's more experienced than Darian Porter and could start over him, right away, just experience wise. So watch out for Julian Neal, man. Julian Neal was like in people's boards 15, 10. He's slowly moving up, slowly moving up, slowly moving up. I got him at 5. So if he's there in the 3rd round, which at 67, I would take Julian Neal in a heartbeat. Wouldn't even hesitate. I would run up there, screaming, jumping, doing backflips. Yeah, 100% Julian Neal. Um, receiver wise, who the hell? Who do they have? There's a receiver, and I can't remember his name for some reason. I just drew a blank. It'll come to me in a minute. I love Carr mind signing him for 1 day to retire. That would be the best route. Sign Derek Carr, let him retire a Raider. The hell, man. I think that's 100% the best way to go. DC is better than AOC 12. I mean, experience-wise, I don't know. I think Aiden O'Connell would give him a run for his money, right? DC can't move. He doesn't want to run no more. He's a pocket passer. If we're talking just standing in the pocket, I think Aiden O'Connell has, right, probably a little bit, maybe a little bit better arm at this point with Derek Carr's injury. So I don't know. I think it'd be a battle. I'd like to see it. Bring in Derek Carr. What's up, my guy? Nice day outside. Cool boy. Appreciate you. Yeah, it was like 69 when I started, and now it's a little bit cooler than that. But yeah, Carr never had a good defense. Never, ever. And he never had, he did have, the car insurance, right? He had a great offensive line. But who were his receivers, man? He made all his receivers better. Rebel is the truth about Carr. Best rated quarterback stat-wise. Has all the Raider records. He does. He's the best Raider quarterback to ever wear a silver and black jersey. You can't debate that, man. You can't debate that one bit. Now you can debate his win-loss record, but I think that's where people get misconstrued when it comes to quarterback play. It's not all on the quarterback. All he can do is go out there and make drives. He can't make the guys not drop passes. He can't make the guys, not let the defenders cut in front of the route because they already know the route, right? You can't do that shit. Bro, most definitely drink Miller Lite. I used to drink Miller Lite. I did. That was my favorite beer. But yeah, man, I want to say this, right? How can Raider fans open Max Crosby with open arms, right? A guy that the Raiders have done everything for in this franchise. They added money at the end of the year. They let him go to rehab and come out and still had a job, right? Like, the Raiders have done everything for Max Crosby. What did they do for Derek Carr? He signed a 4-year, $150 million contract. That's $35 million a year. That was like 12th in the NFL at the time. That's wild to me. So, but Max Crosby can say he doesn't want to be a Raider, right? He loves the Raider fans. He can say Flock Nation. All that shit won out because of a little flock with somebody in the building, instead of just putting your head down, grinding, being a Raider, and Raider fans are like, oh, Max Crosby's back, it's no big deal. But what has Derek Carr ever done to Raider Nation besides go out there and play hurt, play with, what's he had? 3 concussions, a broken hand he played with, um, like busted ribs. Like, come on, let's not act like this dude didn't go out there and do the same thing Max Crosby did for this team. He bled for this team for 9 years, bro. He was a starter in his first year, right? He's won more games in his sleep than Max Crosby has won for the Las Vegas Raiders, for the Oakland Raiders. Why is there so much hate on Derek Carr? Why is there so much hate? What has he ever done to Raider Nation except go out there and do everything he can to win football games with not the best receivers, with not the best defense, right? Constantly having to make plays, 34 comeback fourth quarter wins. Says it all, bro. Says it all for this man. But people are hating. No, Derek Carr. No, Derek Carr. I feel like Derek Carr would be great for the Raiders. Like I said, if you were trading the first round pick, if you weren't drafting Mendoza. But drafting Mendoza, here's my reasons not to bring back Derek Carr. For one, the fan base, bro. The fan base. If Derek Carr was to come in and start until Mendoza was ready, which I don't even know, like I said, if he could beat out Aiden O'Connell. I mean, at this point, could he? I don't know. We'd have to see. So, with that being said, the fan base, man, the fan base. If Derek Carr was to come out and start, as soon as he threw an interception, they'd be screaming for Mendoza or AOC, right? Whoever. Having Mendoza as your third string quarterback would not make sense whatsoever, right? We talked about the Brady friction. I don't think, it's ever going to work. I don't think that Spytek or Mark Davis can say, look, let's bring in Derek Carr or Kubiak or all three of them together. Even the fact that Tom Brady's not in the building. But I don't think it's good for his family. The way the fans treated Geno Smith last year. The way they hate on Derek Carr. And the number one reason, like I read, man, I feel like it's going backwards, right? It's going backwards. Would he help this team? Yes. Do I think we can win with Derek Carr? Absolutely. But bringing him back with Mendoza and having, AOC, on the practice squad? Like, come on. Like, none of that makes sense whatsoever. He left on not a great note, and it just doesn't make sense to go backwards when we're going forward, right? Whether they draft Mendoza, whether he starts the first year, whether he doesn't, whether he'd be a great mentor, which I think he would for Mendoza, it just doesn't make sense to stop the growth of where we're going right now, right? The ship is moving in the right direction. We got a coach in the building we think is a good coach. We know what we got in Robbie Leonard. Everybody's dying, at least I am, to see what he can do on the defensive side of the ball. I think our defense is going to be very, very scary. So for that, I say no. It just doesn't make sense. Like I said, the only way you bring back DC is if you trade that first overall pick and he's your bridge for the next 2 years, and you think that this team is competitive enough to compete for a playoff spot this year, which we'll get into that in a minute. I don't want Flacco. He went and mentored Shador when it came to the Browns, and Cousins is trash, right? I'm not willing to give up draft picks for Carr. Yeah, giving up draft picks for Carr would be crazy. But let me ask you this. What if Carr, like I said he wanted to come back and play for the New Orleans Saints, and the Saints don't have the money, and they're like, damn, maybe you could give a 7th round next year. Would you be willing to do that? If he would take the league minimum, given a 6th and 7th round pick, I would do. That makes sense. Now, if he would take the league minimum, now if you gave him like $20 million guaranteed and then paid him the league minimum, I think he would do that, right? At least you got some guaranteed money if you do get hurt. I mean, that would make sense. And again, like I said, if the Saints don't want a lot for him because he says he wants to come back and play, I think that changes everything. I think that changes the whole entire talk. But you still have the one major factor Derek Carr said he talks to Mark Davis at least once a week. They still have a great relationship. We know he has a great relationship with everybody in the building. But would it turn guys in the building, right? Would they be like, hell no, we want Derek Carr because we know what he can do, and we don't want to play with a rookie in the first year, right? Would it cause controversy there? Depending on, some of the players in the building or what kind of players we have, it very well could. Raiders are on the rise, not going to lie. I believe so, man. I believe so. Let me know who's your top defensive tackles. Who you got? You like my Lakers hat? Silver and black Lakers? Everybody rocking with my drip today? Appreciate it. Angel Eyes, what's good, what's good? Raiders need to pick a coach and stick with them for 3 years minimum. Raiders have had 23 coaches in 20 years. That's all facts. That's all facts. I believe this is the year, man. I think Kubiak has a 3-year window. Is that enough to change this team around? I believe so. Can you win with a rookie quarterback within 3 years? I will say this. The Bengals drafted Joe Burrow. Then he won the Heisman, won the Natty, right? Win all that shit. In his second year, they were in the Super Bowl. But they had a defense in place, which I believe we're starting to put together. They had offensive line, right? They had weapons around him. They had 2 of the best receivers in all of football. makes a difference. On the other hand, the Raiders have Brock Bowers, one of the best tight ends, if not the best tight end in all of football right now. That's a weapon. When you got a quarterback that can get into him, which we know Fernando Mendoza can do, we know Aiden O'Connell could do, we know DC could do, whoever's going to be out there can do. The Raiders have some weapons, man. They have some weapons. And there's a whole bunch of draft kids out there that can help this team if they decide to go receiver-wise. I talked about it before. I think they're going to give some of these kids like Cedric Jackson, a chance in camp to show up and show out. Do you waste a draft pick on a second round, receiver when you believe that maybe one of these guys like Dante Thornton, is the guy? Maybe Jack Bech. Jack Bech had a hell of a year. I mean, not stat-wise, but if you look at his numbers, the targets to the receptions, the first downs he had, like Jack Bech could be the next third in Renfro. He'd be third in Bech. I mean, the dude caught almost everything that was thrown to him, right? He got open. His separation was over 3.1 yards of separation. So the man creates separation. He's big. He's physical. He's going to win the 50-50 balls. And I believe as long as you got a quarterback that's protected and these guys can get into their routes, our receiver room is not as bad as people think. But yeah, I believe Kubiak, man. I believe they rock with them. I don't know what his contract is. I think it's 5 years. I think, after 3, if we're not at least over 500 and competing for a playoff in year 3, then it's time to talk. But I just have a feeling that they're going to be a little bit better than that. They need to keep Kubiak for a couple years. Yeah, he's not going nowhere. This year is, look, they came out and did exactly what they needed to do in John Spytek and the Las Vegas Raiders. They came out and said, this year, next year, the year after that, we are in a rebuild. There is no time limit. We need the right pieces in place. We are going to try to compete no matter what because that's the Raiders' way. But, however, it's still a rebuild. They said it, right? It's been a long time since they've admitted this is a full rebuild. But that full rebuild entailed Max Crosby being traded for 2 first-round picks. That was part of the rebuild. So that rebuild has kind of moved up when you get Max Crosby back to more of a revamp, in my opinion. You bring in Quay Walker. You bring in N'Kobe Dean. You bring in Twitty Payne. You bring in nasty guys on the defense, right? Like, we're missing safety and a true nose if we're running, if 30-40% of our, defense is going to be in a 3-4 base, right? You need a true nose. And there's a couple out there we'll get into in just a second. I might go back inside. It's starting to get cold out here. But defensive tackles, who y'all got? Y'all don't know? Y'all don't have none? Come on, man. Y'all don't have none? I know y'all got some, bro. I know y'all got some defense tackles. All right, I got some for you then. If you don't have none, I got some for you to watch. Somewhere. True nose tackles, the Raiders need to be looking for, right? Let's put on my glasses for this. One guy that might, and I say might, like probably no. Probably no. Let's go with probably no. McDonald is proven? Okay. Well, Caden McDonald. Let's go. Caden McDonald, right? Ohio State, widely regarded as a pure nose in this class. Stay tuned, I'll give you my sleeper. 6'2", 326. He checks all the boxes. There's really nothing you could say, man. He's the William Refrigerator Perry. Like, if y'all go back that far, just an immovable object, right? Primary lines up in the shade or the zero technique, which is the true nose, right on top of the center. Not like that, like y'all thinking of, but on top of the center. He's described as a dancing bear with rare athleticism for his size, power, to require consistent double teams. What does consistent double teams do for the Las Vegas Raiders defense? Well, it frees up N'Kobe Dean. It frees up Quay Walker. It frees up whoever's going to be out there, whether it be Cody Lindenberg, Tommy Eichenberg. We have another defensive end I forgot about. We'll get to that, man. We'll get to the roster later before when we do a mock draft. Make sure y'all pull up. Make sure y'all like and subscribe. Tickle the notification bell. Turn it on so you know when we go live. Pigs in the building. McDonald is proven. I like McDonald. 6'2", 326. I think that's everything we need. But do the Raiders move up into the 20s to get him? Because I think that's where he goes. I think somewhere, maybe even 15 to 32, he goes in the first round. There's a lot of mock drafts that have him in the second round. If he goes in the second round or starts to go in the second round, I would not be surprised if the Las Vegas Raiders trade up, which people will be surprised, very surprised, because we know how Spytech loves his draft picks. But Caden McDonald is definitely worth moving up for a couple spots. You wouldn't have to go crazy, right? We have 3 fourth-round picks. We have draft picks next year. I don't really think we lost any free agents to get any comp picks next year. Cincinnati's Dante Carlone. Oh, I really like Carlone. I think Cincinnati just had a rough year all around for their whole entire team, right? But this man, typical nose, 6'1", 340. 340, bro. 340. Tops on my list. I have him as probably number 2 just because of the fact that we need a true nose. We need a guy to take up double teams. Like I said, to free up Max Crosby, to free up N'Kobe Dean, to free up Quay Walker on the blitz, right? These guys are going to be blitzing like crazy. Just watch. Watch Robbie Leonard cook. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. It's happened once or twice. But he has an elite run defensive grade of 85%, a nose tackle alignment rate. He possesses massive strength, including a 605-pound squat. That means this man is big enough to take your left guard or your right guard and your center and literally probably just bulldoze his way to the quarterback, or at least open up a hole for your linebacker to get through and do his job on the quarterback, right? Dislodge his helmet from his neck. I'm just kidding. So I like Dante. I don't know how to say his last name. Cologne from Cincinnati. I think he's one of them dudes that, not only does he squat the 612, but the athleticism for being 640 pounds is a guy that can move, bro. Is a guy that can move. So definitely fits the bill for me. And again, these are in no order. I think I just started from the top. So yeah. Next up is Iowa State's Dominique Orange, right? They call him Big Citrus. Now, this guy's there at 67. I can see the Raiders taking him. However, if one of these guys are there in the second round at pick 36, and they really feel like that's the guy that's going to plug the middle in their 3-4 defense, I wouldn't be surprised, if they take him there. If they haven't already got one. I think that's the question, right? Do you take a chance on a guy like Big Citrus, 6'4", 325, has a 73% nose tackle rate, and is cited by scouts as the best pure run stopper in this class. He excels at holding his spot and playing with natural leverage, which, again, this is what we need from our defensive tackle. You don't have to get to the quarterback. If you get to the quarterback and move him off his spot, that's a plus. But if you take on a double team, when you have guys like Max Crosby and Malcolm Kuntz on the edge, and Twitty Payne and Charles Snowden, like Tyree Wilson, I mean, that's a nice rotation. That's a nice rotation when you can move into a nickel, right? To me, I like Dominic Orange. I really do. I think maybe the Raiders should possibly go my route, take your right tackle at pick 36. I think that's the best case. But, however, a lot of people have Lee Hunter on their list, right? Caleb Banks. Lee Hunter is 6'4", 330. He averaged 10 tackles for a loss over his last 3 seasons. 10 tackles for a loss. That means he's a dude that can get to the quarterback. He can chase down your running backs. Lee Hunter is him. Unfortunately, he'll be gone in the first round. We no longer have 2 first-round picks unless we trade back. Unless we trade back. So, while he can move around the line, he is frequently ranked as a top nose tackle due to his explosive lateral movement and run stuffing ability. Now, you see that on tape, but man, I did not see that at the combine. I did not. I did not. But numbers don't lie, right? Numbers don't lie. Can he do that consistently against top-ranked offensive linemen in the NFL, right? They're bigger, stronger, faster, better technique. I don't know. So Lee Hunter, a lot of people have very high on their list. I don't have him quite as high on mine. Caleb Banks, 6'6", 330. Man, what's all running over everything? Sorry, I got people picking up kids, running shit over in my yard. But yeah, Caleb Banks, man. Caleb Banks was my number 1 guy on this list. A lot of people had him going in the first round, but then he broke his foot running the 40. I don't know if anybody in Raider Nation wants to draft a guy in the first round with a foot injury. Tyree Wilson, anybody? Right? No. Let's move on from that. But Caleb Banks, man, if given a clean bill of health, right, which, it's going to take a while, a broken foot, I don't know how long that takes to recover. But as big as he is, we've seen how long it took Christian Wilkins with his foot injury. I say we just stay away from the foot injury. I love Caleb Banks. Maybe he'll be a top, um, maybe he'll be an all-star one day. Maybe he'll be, that all-pro dude. But I have to say no on that. Florida State, man. Florida State's Darrell Jackson Jr. Yes, Jr. 6'5", 340. Another just massive, massive load that, is going to take on double teams. It's going to eat guys, just eat guys up on that line. But the significant, I think he played 37% at nose tackle. He's a bulldozer. What else do I got? He's a bulldozer who is nearly impossible to move when his technique is right. And I think that's a big question, technique. Now, I liked him. I like him. I like his footwork. I think, like I said, as big as he is, as strong as he is, 6'5", 340, got a huge wingspan. Dude that if you can't move him, it's hard to get a run game going if your guards and your center can't open up holes, right? So if you can't move a guy, I don't know what fuck is my grade on him. I'll have to get back at you with that. I don't have grades on any of these dudes. Why? All right. Well, I will have to do that later. Grades. I don't know. I'm thinking possibly late third, fourth round, depending on how the tackles go. This is a deep class when it comes to defensive line and edge rushers, so it just depends. Next up is a guy I like because he's just a natural run stuffer, a bulldozer when it comes to the line. He's quick off his feet, right? Quick off the snap. He's gonna move centers, disrupt the offensive line, disrupt your passing game, your passing lanes, your rushing lanes. Is Tim Keenan, the third from Alabama. 6'1", 327. He's a tackle that excels in a 3-4 or 4-3 scheme. He played 42% at the nose tackle alignment. So he's a guy that you can definitely move around your offensive line. Don't have to just play nose. He can play the 2 technique, the 3 technique. And I like him, man. I like him. For 327, very strong, very athletic for Tim Keegan, Alabama. Next is the player I think the Raiders could very well go after if he's there. And then a lot of mock drafts. Christian Miller, the Georgia boy, has been there. If you look at the Raiders and what they're doing right now, they have a defense full of Georgia. Full of Georgia boys, right? 2 in the middle at linebacker or maybe on the edge, wherever they're going to play Quay, we don't know. They have Eric Stokes. They used to have a safety that they released last year. They like Georgia players when it comes to the Raiders, right? Everybody thinks Spytek is so huge on Michigan guys, but really, I think he's a lot bigger on these damn. You're cool with Tonka and Lalu. I'm cool with that too, 100%. But I think both of those guys are going to play more of a 3-4 technique, and we need a true nose. And Christian Miller could be that. While versatile enough to play the 3 technique, Miller at 6'4", 321 is frequently utilized as a nose tackle in the Georgia's front. He's praised for his twitchy movement and high football IQ. Sounds like a Raider. When you look at Spytek, the way he drafts, the way he evaluates players, right? Kubiak has said, what do you need on your defensive line and in your offensive line? Smart players, right? Smart guys that grasp football, the concept of football, that can pick up schemes really, really quick. Christian Miller is that dude. I think Christian Miller is that dude. And if he's there in the second round, I've taken him on 3 different mock drafts at 36 because he was there. And I don't see if him being there at 36. I don't see the Raiders passing on him. Like I said, the Georgia roots. A guy that a lot of people aren't talking about is Xavier Harris from Ole Miss. I mean, Ole Miss had a hell of a run. That defense was nasty. This dude just killed my Arkansas Razorbacks. He made Taylor Green run for his life over and over and over. Every single play, downset height, he was in the backfield. Blue 52, he was in the backfield. And he's a big man. He shouldn't be in the backfield. But he was just dominating the Arkansas Razorbacks front line. And that's Xavier Harris. 6'8", 6'8", yes, he should be an offensive tackle. Maybe the Raiders can convert him to an offensive tackle. I don't know. But 6'8", 330 pounds. Harris is a stereotypical type. Stand your ground nose tackle. His sheer strength and size make him a natural fit for any 3-4 scheme. Just so happens our base is a 3-4 scheme. And if you can't get your defensive tackles at 36, which I don't think they do. I think they go right guard there. There's a lot of right guards, or there should be at least 3 that I think could start day one for the Las Vegas Raiders at the right guard position. Hopefully one of those is Max Ihenacore. So if you go get your guard in the your right tackle in the second round, right, and you get a receiver, say in the third round, because the board doesn't fall how you want to, I think Xavier Harris is a guy you could definitely move up for. I mean, just for his size alone, it's going to make it very difficult with a guy that can't be moved off his spot, that can take on double teams and just has to put on one of them big old huge hands, right, and disrupt the passing lane in the middle. It'll make it hard for quarterbacks to stay on their spot, right? They're going to have to move off their spot if they want to throw over the middle with a guy like that, 6'8", 340. I think that's the way to go, man. I really do. If you're looking for a guy in the later rounds, third or fourth, I don't know where he's going to go, where he's projected, like I said. And then the last one is Clemson's Dante Capehart. I really like Capehart too. His best role is definitely at nose tackle. Has the length, has the size, has the strength, right? Another guy that's a run stuffer. All these guys are run stuffers. And the Raiders' biggest problem over the last couple of years, not last year, because we were damn good at the run last year. I mean, people want to talk about the Raiders' run defense, right? But we forget about how these stats accumulate and how the numbers go, right? When you're up 2 touchdowns in the third quarter, you're going to run the ball. And no matter how good your run defense is, they're going to gain yards. And when they're running it every possession over and over and over again, even if you're not giving up big explosive plays, it still looks like you gave up a lot of yards on defense, which the Raiders really didn't. They gave up most of the yards when they were way, way behind, right? A lot of those games, like Kansas City, they started running the ball before the half. They didn't even throw the ball. They just ran the shit out of the ball. Kansas City. Same thing against the Eagles. They just ran the ball. They didn't even have to throw the ball against the Raiders. So when you have games like that, right, I think the Raiders' run defense was way better than they're given credit for. And if you put a guy in the middle, like any one of these, but especially Xavier Harris, I think the Raiders are in business, man. And like I said, if you can get one of these guys, to possibly fall to the 4th round, right? I mean, you're judging the draft, right? They have way better knowledge of where these guys are going to go. Like I said, I should have probably figured this out. Let me see. Maybe I could do this real quick. But yeah, man, if you could get one of these guys to fall, to the later third rounds, and you already have your safety, which I think we need, a defensive nose, which I think, if we don't have a nose, just another defensive lineman, whether it's edge, whether it's, another defense, some 3 or 4 tech, which we don't want to have too many guys because I think they need to develop the talent that's in the building. I trust in John Spytek, drafted Tonka Hemingway, JJ Pegues, these guys for a reason. Jafari Harvey, a guy that a lot of people have forgot about. I didn't because I had him on my draft board going to the Raiders. I was like, this guy just fits what Spytek, wants in a football player. And he's another guy that's still on the roster. So we have another edge that, may get some play time under this new coaching regime. He's big, he's physical, he can get off the line. And he might be, Jafari Harvey might even fit better in a 3-4. You might just put him as your end, with his hand in the dirt, right? Jafari Harvey, hugely strong. All right, so Caden McDonald, projected late first, like I said, right in the 20s, probably somewhere in there. Do the Raiders move up and get a guy like that when you can get a guy, like some of these other guys I talked about later on? So late first, early second. Which if he falls to the early second, Caden McDonald is a Raider. I'm saying, I think he would be. Caleb Banks, late first, early second. I think with the foot injury that falls, he might fall. Even as far as the 3rd or 4th round, would be crazy. But looking at Tyree Wilson, looking at the past, looking at history, do you take a guy with a broken foot, that early? So I think Caleb Banks falls, probably 2nd round. I'd be surprised if he falls. Somebody's going to take a chance, just because he's an athletic freak. Lee Hunter, another guy, late first, early 2nd round. Christian Miller is late first to the 3rd round. High floor, projected drawing interest by Buffalo and the Minnesota Vikings. So, that, how much battery I got left? If this live ends, I appreciate everybody being here. I don't know how much battery I got left, but it wasn't a lot when I got on. So Christian Miller, late first to possible 3rd round. Dominique Orange, like I said, 2nd or 3rd round. I was pretty much spot on there. Dante Corleone, 3rd or 4th round. So I was pretty much right, or close there. Once higher projected, his stock has settled into the mid rounds due to the injury and weight concerns. I don't know what Carlone's injury is. Damn it, that would be one of my guys, but an injury, bro, that's not going to help. Daryl Jackson, early day 3, is a 3rd round guy. So if Daryl Jackson is there in the 3rd round, I wouldn't be surprised if the Raiders give up one of those 4th round picks, to move up and get another pick in the 3rd round, or trade back that 36th pick overall. Maybe they trade back there because they think, their right tackle, Ehenekor, is going to fall a little bit farther, which I don't know why this dude doesn't go in the 1st round. People are crazy if they don't take him, but please don't take him. Please let him be there at 36. But maybe the Raiders trade back like they did last year, trade back that early pick, get another pick in the 3rd round. A pick later in the 2nd round. I wouldn't be mad at that. Spytek's a genius when it comes to that shit. But Daryl Jackson, a day 3 pick projected. What else we got? Tim Keenan, 3rd or 4th round. So, dude, you could get a tackle in the 4th round. A nose tackle, a true nose tackle that I think helps this Raiders team right off the rip, right? If you're asking me, right off the rip, 3rd or 4th round. It's been off, solidified mid-round pick for teams needing a 0 tech, which the Raiders need. Teams like Pittsburgh need. Teams like, I don't think the Houston Texans need, but it would definitely help those bookends that they have over there on the defensive line. Bringing in a guy like any one of these. Xavier Harris is a day 3 Ole Miss. I would take him at 67. I would take him at 67 all day long. If you're telling me the Raiders got Fernando Mendoza, Max Ehenekor, and then got Xavier Harris from Ole Miss in the 3rd round, I think that's a A+ draft right there, just in those 3 picks. Just my opinion. And then Dante Capehart, another projected late third round development prospect after a rotational college piece. I mean, but I don't think he's going to be much of a rotational guy because we don't really have a true nose tech, you know, with the weight and size that can get to take on double teams and, stop the run like I believe a lot of these rookies can. So let me know where y'all feel about these guys. Any of these guys higher or lower on your list? Do you like any of them? I have him. Just his length is difficult to project. For who? For who? Pigs? McDonald? Um, I, I don't know. I don't think at the nose tech. I mean, it does matter a lot. But I think at the nose tech, if any position on the defensive line that you can get away with it, I think having shorter arms just because of his physicality and his strength and his explosiveness, I think he could get away with it there at the true nose. We keep bringing in players. We already have players. The guard we got from the 49ers or what? There's players on this team that don't get no run. We're grazing this year off last year, shaking my head. I feel you, man. I feel you. There's a lot of players that, that are not getting, the burn they need. And if you don't get burned, it's kind of hard to, um, it's kind of hard to know what these guys have, right? Because a lot of guys, I mean, let's be honest, a lot of guys don't show out in practice, right? Because they're bigger guys and they're willing to get hurt. But when the game's on the line and you roll the ball out there, right? These guys flip demeanor and they're a totally different person out there. So some guys just don't always show out in practice. And I guess you don't get on the field if you don't show out in practice. But, you know, there's a lot of people like JJ Pegues that didn't get as much burn as I thought he should last year. Also Tonka Hemingway. I mean, for when he was out there, what he had 4 sacks for Tonka Hemingway. He played less than 50 snaps. Like, that's a dude that can get to the football, right? That's a dude that's making plays and changing and changing it up. So I agree with you 100%, man. We don't need to keep bringing in guys, but I feel like the guy we just drafted, from brought in from the 49ers, I feel like all these guys are to push the guys we have in the building, or maybe they just don't believe in the guys we have in the building that they've seen on tape, right? So maybe in the system, once they learn the system, in a new pretty much pro, wide zone scheme, maybe these guys pick it up and they develop into what they believe they can develop in. But you got to always have depth, man. We've seen the Raiders offensive line, right? JPJ we lost last year. You got to have a solid backup piece for that. And if he's the starter and Meredith isn't, then you have that, right? You have that in Burton if he doesn't win the starting role. You have that in Caleb Rogers if he's not on the starting role, right? And I think that's the whole point of bringing in guys. Yes, we have a lot. I know there's, like I said, nine guards on this team. That seems like overkill when you're only keeping 10 offensive linemen. You have 9 guards. You have 4 tackles. We have Colton Miller, Caleb Rogers, Charles Grant, and Dalton Wagner are the only tackles that we have right now on the roster. That's only 4. That's, if something happens to Colton Miller, which it has, the last 2 years, then you have the replacement in Charles Grant. But if something happens to, something happens to DJ Glaze, then it's Dalton Wagner. I mean, I think we definitely need some tackles. And I feel like second overall pick is where they go get their tackle in this draft. 640 question. What? Orange looked like he's a defensive end in a 3-4. They have him as he paid over 37% of the snaps at nose. So, at that size, bro, if you want to put him at the 4 technique, if you want to put him at the 3, you can move him around. I mean, in a 3-4, I think if he can find a spot in there, shit, I'm good with Orange. And kind of more of a defensive end, but can he be that defensive end with his hand in the dirt in a 3-4? I think he could be that. We need a backup running back. We need a number one receiver, not guards. We need safeties, not nose guards. Make it make sense. We're gonna get a backup running back. We don't have a lot of money left. There's like less than $10 million left for the Las Vegas Raiders. There's nothing we can do about that. The Max Crosby coming back totally jacked us. I mean, I'm sure they have a backup plan and they're making it work right now, right? Everybody plan A doesn't work. You always have a plan B, and I hope their plan B is the right one. Which I have faith in them, but they're looking at Kalen Black from Indiana, right? You bring in a familiar face with Fernando Mendoza. I don't think that's a bad idea, right? I feel like Kalen Black would be a damn good pickup if they can get him in the right spot. We're not taking him in the third or fourth round or anything crazy. But if you have to move up and get him or take him in the fourth, I wouldn't be mad at that. We do need a number one wide receiver, but there's guys that they can get in the second and third, or in the third round, in the fourth rounds, that can be that X receiver. There's a lot of X receivers in this draft. And nose guard, you do need a nose guard. If you're running a 3-4 base, you have to have that plug in the middle. You need a true nose. And again, 37% is projected supposedly what they're gonna, run their base defense. Most of it'll be, in zone and nickel, because we have fast linebackers, and it just makes sense to have Jeremy Chin down there in the box. So yeah, we need a safety 100%. I think safety right now for us is the biggest need. I think we could, if we didn't draft a nose tackle and we didn't sign one, I think we could get away with that. But if we don't draft a safety or sign one, I don't think we can get away with that. I don't. Unless they're thinking Taylon Johnson is going to be more of a safety position. I think he could fill that role. Thoughts on Tua Tagovailoa? Does he suck? Can he retire in his career in Atlanta? Can he revive his career in Atlanta? I mean, Tua's a sticky situation, bro. I think he'll be all right in Atlanta. I don't think he's beating out Penix when Penix comes back. I think Penix is just more accurate, more decisiveness with the ball. He doesn't try to make throws he can't make. I think Tua's lost a little bit when it comes to his arm. I think the concussions have been a big deal. I think off the field issues are starting to, be a big deal as well. He has a chance, right? He has a chance. He's probably more than likely going to start for Atlanta because Penix probably won't be ready. So, we'll see. Atlanta's got a damn good team. I mean, they played pretty solid last year down the stretch. They have weapons galore. But they had weapons galore in Miami too, and it didn't work. So was it Tua? Was it Mike McDonald? I don't know. D Money, what up? What up? Miller DT for the Raiders. I'm good with that all day. Dunker plays both right sides. Would he be available? I like Jennings Dunker. I love Jennings Dunker, as a matter of fact. But it just makes no sense to bring in a guard at this point, unless they bring in this guy for an interview and they're telling me that Jennings Dunker is definitely the starter day one at the left or right guard position. Are he starting to tackle? I mean, I don't care about his arm size, right? I don't think that's a problem. I think maybe his footwork at the tackle position might be a problem. But if you could bring him in and have him compete at right tackle, I mean, yeah. But I think it's just a waste of a draft pick right now. I think they got too many guys, and you're not gonna start cutting guys, until at least camp starts. Unless they just watch tape on enough of these guys and start saying, Lackey Tassi, boom, got to go. Antonio Maffi, boom, got to go, right? I mean, the list goes on and on. There's a lot. But Dunker was high on my list. But if he can't play right tackle, I just don't think he fit. I mean, he fits the Raiders. He's definitely a Raider. He's got that Raider mentality. But if he can't play right tackle, I don't see how he helps us. We don't need right guard. We got JPJ and Rodgers. Get a wide receiver and a running back. Get a defensive end. Do they go defensive end in the draft? If they do, at what round? In the fourth round? Do they try to find another Max Crosby in the 4th round? I feel like there's a couple defensive ends in the 4th round that you could pick up, especially having 3 first-round picks in the 4th. It's not working. Yeah, Hendrickson and Crosby would be nasty, but I feel like Crosby and Pitty and Twitty Payne is going to be nasty as well. And we already know what him and Malcolm Kuntz can do when Malcolm Kuntz is healthy, right? He had his best year with Malcolm Kuntz on the other side. So if you're in before otherwise, let me know. What? It doesn't tell me how much battery I have. Hold on. Oh, I got 9%. 9%. It stays on if your phone dies, right? Lakers winning the chip. Bro, the Lakers are on a roll. What are they at? 6, 7 games? I think they come on here in a minute. So I got to hop off. Watch my boy AR-15. Yes. Yes, I can't wait. Their defense has been playing well. Marcus Smart has been shutting down the other team's #1 players. And my Lakers are hot, man. My Lakers are hot. So I love it. The big three are starting to play together. Luka, LeBron, and AR. Can't wait, man. Just can't wait for football season to come back. San Francisco 49ers beat the Las Vegas Raiders. I can't wait, Roberto. I can't wait either till my 49ers dog walk you and put belt to ass on them sorry ass 49ers. Coming here talking that smack. Hit the thumbs up. Shout out for $2 holla. Appreciate you. Better hurry, my phone's gonna die. Yeah, Max is home. I mean, he didn't want it to be his home, though. How can you call yourself? That's like running away. That's like a kid running away when he's 13, 14 years old, and then getting arrested, and then having to come back home and be like, "Oh, I'm home." Nah, bro, this ain't your home. You didn't want it to be your home. Oh, I want to come back one day. Man, get out of here with that shit. He's not home. It should have been his home, but he didn't want it to be his home. He left. And now everybody's willing to take him back, but they won't take back Derek Carr. It's crazy to me. Crazy to me. Derek Carr did nothing but give his heart and soul. He stood up on a stage and cried because the team was going in the wrong direction, and he could see that the coaches were not the right coaches, the right fit. And look how it turned out to be, right? They got rid of him like he was the problem. We all know it was Dick Daniels. So I can't wait for y'all, for us to beat y'all. Texans fan? Do we play the Texans again? What are you talking about? We played you all last year and you won. You got to beat us again? Fuck you mean? But safety-wise, man, I think that's the way to go. I think our biggest holes, and as the thumbnail says, are the Raiders rebuilding? Or are they competing? Bro, I think they're competing. I really feel like this coaching staff is going to bond. They're going to gel. I feel like the players, already in the building, working out. Been a lot of guys in the building. They have a lot of holes still to fill. But I feel like our depth, just with the guys that we brought in, our depth has got a lot better. Like my guy Lawrence said, shout out to the OG, right? There's so many guys on this team that haven't got burned, that we don't know what they have. And we're about to find out in camp. And I think they're going to surprise some people, like DeCamarion Richardson, right? I think he goes out and surprises some people. Tonka Hemingway, JJ Pegues. I think these guys are hungry and they know they have an opportunity, right? They go out and surprise some people. I hope Thomas Booker comes out, now that he's back for however long, right? I hope he comes out and plays better. Guys like Adam Butler being healthy, right? He had some back injuries last year. So this defensive line could be good. We need a couple pieces, and those pieces are safeties, man. We have to have safeties that should be, I feel, that should be the second overall pick. If it's not, if your guy's not there or my guy's not there, Max D. Hennecor, if he's not there, you go safety. I would take a safety as early as the second round because I think there's a lot of talent in this draft. Or do you go the other way and you take Lorenzo Styles later in the rounds with his speed and develop him into the best safety in the NFL? Let me know your thoughts and opinions on we rebuild right. Um, then let's rebuild the draft starters and continue to rebuild. Don't base this year of next year. We had a terrible coaching staff. That's what I'm saying. You can't base anything off of last year. The coaching staff were not on the same page. The players were not on the same page as the coaches. We have a lot of good players that people overlook and seem to think we don't have any receivers. We don't have a defensive line. Like, this team played well in a lot of games, and I believe this Raiders team is not rebuilding because Max Crosby is back and we don't have those picks. I don't think it's a rebuild. I think it's a reboot, right? We're just updating the system, and I think we updated the system good enough to compete in our division and compete in the AFC. I really feel that way. No matter who the quarterback is, right? Just because our offensive line is solid. We know Kubiak's going to run the hell out of the game, out of the ball, right? We know Ashton Genty can run the hell out of the ball. I mean, the kid almost had 1,000 yards behind one of the worst offensive lines in Raiders history, if not the worst offensive line in Raider history. So there is upside to this team. With this coach, if they gel together quick, like they did in New England, right? Like they did in Washington, like they did in Chicago, like teams have been doing all around the league. When they get the right pieces in the right place to the right puzzle, the team works like a well-oiled machine, right? If you got a car with no damn spark plugs, it's not going to run, right? No matter how good your tires are, how good your rims look, no matter how good your interior looks, right? If you don't have no spark plugs, it's not going to work. If you got spark plugs, you don't have no gas, right? You need everything for your car to run. It has to have oil, it has to have water. You have to have spark. You have to have fuel, right? You have to have all this shit, a transmission to make it move. If you don't have all of that, your car's a piece of shit and it don't run. That's what the Raiders have been over the last couple of years. And now we have all those positions and key places that we can go out and just continue to build this every single year, every single day, one step at a time, 1%, 1%, 1%, and get better. And I feel like this offensive line, you can't do that without an O-line. Why do you think we don't have an O-line? Did you not just hear me say these dudes have proven they can play at these positions? Jordan Meredith at 80 grade 2 years ago with Antonio Pierce as the head coach. Bad coaching staff. Still had one of the best grades. He was the 5th best right guard in all of football, Jordan Meredith. You have JPJ. Do we not believe in JPJ? You have the best center in all of football. You have Colton Miller, who's still a top 10 left tackle, no matter what anybody wants to think, if he's healthy. The only position we're lacking right now is, can we keep DJ Glaze from being by himself? This offensive line isn't bad. We don't need to keep building it. We have 8 guards and 4 tackles and 2 centers. Like, how many guys are they going to bring in? Why did they just go get a guard if they were planning on drafting a guard in the NFL draft? I don't think they do that. I think they go tackle, right tackle if anything. And this offensive line is solid. So some people might believe that we still need an O-line, but I think the O-line is there, man. I think it was there 2 years ago. They decided to move pieces around and ruin the continuity that was there. And we still were okay last year. I mean, Ashton Genty did run for 1,000 yards. Close to it. Anyways, so we are putting Band-Aids on bullet wounds. If we're going to rebuild, you need starters. We got starters. We went out and got starters, right? We went out and got starters. Now, you have to realize, my guy Lawrence, OG in the building, you have to realize that we need 90 guys for camp. 90, bro. 90. 9. Oh, that's not 90. But yeah, 90 guys we need in camp. Guess what? How many of those guys are staying? How many guys are staying out of those 90 guys? 53-man roster, 16 practice squad, I do believe. What is that? 69? 69 guys? So we're going to lose 21 dudes. You have to have bodies. You can't go into camp with 60 guys and say, this is all we got and you guys are going to compete. What if somebody gets hurt? What if somebody goes down? You have to have bodies. So not all of these signings that we're bringing in are guys that are going to be on this team. They're not guys that are going to be competing for jobs. You know, they're going to have a chance to compete, but if they don't fit, they're going to be out the door. We have 90 guys. We have to get down to 54-man roster, 53-man roster, and then your practice guys. You have to have bodies in the building. So we're not just going out and signing guys that we don't need. Like, we need all of them. We need competition. We need guys to push the guys behind them. And if you don't have that, then you don't have a team, bro. If you don't have competition, we seen that last year. There was no competition. Gino was the starter no matter what he did, right? Ashton Genty was the starter no matter what as a rookie. Brock Bowers was the starter no matter what. Even hurt, should he have been the starter? I think Michael Mayer played his ass off when Brock Bowers missed a game. I mean, what, he had almost 100 yards that one game, a touchdown. So there are so many pieces on this team, man. So many pieces on this team. And my phone is going to die. So I love y'all. I appreciate y'all. Much love, much respect. 69 guys sounds suspect. Whatever you say, bro. Respect your mind. Respect your family. Always take care of your mind. And as always, go Raiders. If you need to talk, the hotline's always there. It's on the community page. Peace. Much love. If you're not subscribed to this channel, subscribe to the channel. Raiders. Much love. Adios. Go Raiders. Just win, baby. Just get good. Just do something. I don't know.